There you go, boys. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Celtic Honest Interview podcast. My name is Ryan Clifford. It's another podcast to the end of the season. Joining me in this podcast is Jason, JP, and John. A wee mini review of the season. Obviously, it's a few days since obviously won the title. Recharge the batteries, reflect on the season. John, glad to have you back on again. Obviously, Celtic won the double. We all know a lot of the thoughts for the start of the season until now to where we are at the end of the season. How would you gauge your thoughts obviously at the start of the season, John, till obviously now? The media, we all know it was basically Celtic were maybe not going to finish second, etc., etc. We've all been through it. We all know what we've seen. So it's kind of good now we've done what we've done, and a lot of get egg off us.
Personally, I thought it would have been an uphill struggle, considering what went on last year and all the ramifications for that. But probably any Celtic fan would have described this season as a major success, and probably couldn't ask for anything more, to be honest with you.
I would say so myself. I think JP's definitely a major success considering where we were last year. Obviously, basically 1-0. Basically, a season that you generally would never think happen, and it happened to us. It probably was an absolute disaster in terms of something that you wouldn't think would happen again this year. Me personally, mate, I think I was one of the only ones at the start of the year that thought we'd win the league this year. No the way we did it, but I did think that there was not a chance we'd be how bad we were as we were last year to this year. And I think no matter who the manager was, if it was going to be Eddie Howe, which was obviously the big rumours, if it was going to be Ange, whoever it was going to be, I did think we'd be closer than obviously we were last year. But let's be fair, mate, as John just says here, there's not what else can you ask. Obviously, the Scottish Cup, we didn't win, but when you look back now, maybe we've been greedy asking for a treble in his first year, probably so. But when you look back now, me personally, I think we can win the league by more if we maybe didn't take it out of the ball in certain games. I just think it's been absolutely superb, and looking forward to obviously next year and what more we can bring under Ange.
Yeah, first of all, good evening, lads. Nice to see you all again. It's been a wee while, so no, you're definitely right, Brian and John. Beyond my wildest dreams, anyway. If you look back to the way we started, we lost our first 3 away games of the season. We lost, what was it, 3 games out of 6. So you lose it. Tony Macaroni, you lose at Tynecastle, the first game of the season, which was a late night kick-off on Saturday night. Still getting new players, try to bed in. Probably didn't have all your squad in. You were very light in numbers in terms of what you had available to you on match day. And then obviously losing it, you lost your first game, the first derby of the season at Ibrox, narrowly 1-0. But it wasn't looking good. And obviously people, we spoke at length about the rebuild we had and everything we had today. And to win the league, was it 17 new players been added to the squad over 2 transfer windows? That is frightening. That's phenomenal. I don't know many other leagues in the world, anywhere else that's managed to achieve that. But not only did we win the league, we've won a domestic double our first season. And you could probably look at the Scottish Cup. It was well within my grasp to do so. We just kind of fell short, albeit in extra time in a derby. So, yeah, it was phenomenal, mate. And to be sitting as champions, and then obviously off the back of being champions, you then get Champions League football guaranteed. And you're straight into group stages. You're not having to play any qualifiers. I mean, they kind of games are nasty in themselves, in my opinion. You're playing against teams that are sometimes 10 to 20 games into their season. They're always flying, so you're always trying to get up to speed. And the last wee while, we've kind of fallen short in the qualifiers for one reason or another. But phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And a lot of our football this season, especially under the manager, As you said yourself, Ryan, we were laughed at the beginning of the season, mate. We lost out in Eddie Howe, and we brought Ange in, and at the time he was an unknown for our side of the world, and there was all sorts of things being put out about him, and he was to be sacked by Christmas, and he was going to be our version of Pedro Caixinha, and he was doing this, and he was loads of daft, silly predictions, but people just didn't know. And when you go and do your homework and you start looking at his CV and things he'd achieved, you knew right away the guy wasn't a novice, and you knew right away, even listening to him in his first press conference, he got what it meant to be here, and he understood. And then he tells you about obviously having posters of Kenny Dalglish up in his wall when he was a boy, and it's just been a remarkable season, mate. It's been unreal, and it's probably one of the best seasons for different reasons I can remember in a long, long time, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, considering, let's be fair, the club, Jason, was in disarray, the board was in disarray, the fans were just, you kind of lost your club for a few months. We just didn't know what was going on. Like JP says, the manager situation, we just didn't know what was happening. But I think the thing for me was, Jason, it was a lack of respect for the manager. Doesn't matter who comes in. I just thought the lack of respect to go was unbelievable. No with Celtic fans, because we all were all excited for new manager coming. Didn't matter who was coming in, it was just a fresh start. But the fact that, like JP says, we're basically saying he was a Caixinha, etc. These are the guys who are paid top dollar in the media to do their research, and they obviously didn't do their research on them. Guys like us, fans, done a better research, and before we, as soon as you heard his name, he was favourite right away. As soon as Eddie Howe was told he wasn't coming, he was even money with Sky Bet, so that tells you that he was in the pipeline, because these bookies for me don't get a lot of things wrong when it comes to the odds. So he was obviously spoke to before, or he was in Celtic's pipeline, because you can't just pluck a guy like that out there. He was obviously spoke about some capacity. So if you do the research on him, he's part of the City group, obviously, and he's Guardiola rates him highly, Man City rate him highly. So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes to that level, because by all accounts, what he's done, he's spoke about as an elite manager. I would class him as an elite manager for what I've seen from him, for, like JP says, the turnaround players. I don't know if Klopp, Guardiola could do that. I really don't know with the amount of money he's had to spend. He's only had a lot of money to spend. It's money that he's actually brought in. It's no money out of Celtic's pocket. That's the thing, Jason, for me. People need to actually, outside of Celtic, need to realise Celtic have not spent £30 million. They've not spent money. It's money they've brought in, but they've had to spend it. It's different with Man City. It said, did they just spend £100 million and Grealish? Aye, we'll spend it. But Celtic had to spend it. And I think the disrespect, Jason, I think now it's Big Andrew we're laughing out at disrespect.
Oh, good evening, lads. Nah, definitely. Do you know what I mean? It was right for the get-go. The first one that sprang to mind for me with the disrespect was on TalkSport, and it was that Brazil was like, is this some kind of joke? And then the rest were all laughing and all that. But when I found it was him, I went and done a bit of research, and then I listened to a few Australians talking about him, and they were like that. They were like, this guy's, he's really, really good. If you just buy into what he's doing. You know, and JP touched on it, you know, I think with the start we got off to, you know, it sort of fueled. It fueled, but they were all saying, oh, this is it, it'll be the next senior and all that. But I don't remember him standing in any bushes this season. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't believe that any manager in football now could do what he done and what he's done and how quickly he's done it. I certainly didn't think he would have done it as quick as he done it. I think before the transfer January window came, I was like, if we can get a few signings in, the time is over and we get to the summer, then that'll be us. But they've all come in and they've just. It's players that he obviously he can see a player and he just goes, right, that's what I want him, and I can go and get him. And as you say, Brian, you know, he's worked with the City group. This guy at Celtic will just get in. He's worked with him before. Bobo's done, I think. He's worked with him before, so I think that'll be good for us. But I was having a discussion about the other day, and in my opinion, I don't know if you will share the same opinion, but I think he's the best manager since Martin O'Neill. I don't remember there being a reaction in the club since Martin O'Neill. the way that they worked out. I just think it's very, very similar. I think Rodgers was good in his own right, but Rodgers inherited a decent team. Ange inherited nothing, in my opinion. I don't know what you think, but that's...
I can agree with you, mate. I know what you're saying, aye.
In terms of inheritance, I get you, Jay. Aye.
Definitely on the players that don't get me wrong, see even the squad that we had with Rodgers, right? Aye, he had the players, but I think he made every, similar to Ange, he made guys like Stuart Armstrong, who was good in his own right, but he made Stuart Armstrong a Premier League superstar now, in my opinion. Stuart Armstrong's superb now, and how he does play for Scotland Mayor is unbelievable because he's phenomenal. He improved, guy. He basically improved every single player.
James Forrest.
James Forrest as well. Guy, I do believe that James Forrest, for me, was under Rodgers, was his best as a Celtic player. I know he critics, I'm one of the critics. I think apart from Rodgers' era, he's not really been too successful. I know his stats tell me maybe I'm talking shit, but I just think, for what I've seen from him, day 3 years was his best. But apart from that, he's been inconsistent. But on what Jason says here, John, I understand what he's saying. What Ange's done this year, I don't really think there's a lot of words you can say now. But I think the fact that Rodgers came in and done what he done, treble-wise, etc. I don't know. I can't compare them because the two of them have done two different success jobs. You can maybe say the fact that maybe Ange came in with maybe a slightly stronger Rangers, and Rodgers came in with Rangers that were under par and had no chance of winning the league. So, but no matter the way you look at it, John, the guy's just done an incredible job. And if this is what he's done, we come in with no backroom staff. Basically, he's had to inherit a squad and a backroom staff and a board that he doesn't know. What is he going to do when he's actually got money to spend and when everybody knows he's all about? Next year, for me, I think he'll go even better because he's had a type of set on to Scotland. He knows the way Celtic work, how the fans are, and how the league works. And I think he knows by maybe the mistakes of Bodo Glimt, etc., what he's got to do better in Europe. Because for me, John, I know it's the season's done and we've won the league, but that tie still stinks to me a bit in the way we went out. So I think on European football, at JP says, John, I think he'll learn a lot, and I think it's only massive positive vibes for next year under him.
Aye, when he came in, he lost. Well, Brown was still there, I think, when he came in, wasn't he? But only for a couple of weeks, maybe. And he was obviously told that Brown was leaving, whatever. Scott Brown is a Celtic legend.
I think he was away, John.
Was he away?
I think he was away. I think his last game was against Hibs in the 0-0 draw at Easter Road, the last game of the season. I don't think Brown. I think because Ange had to sort of select the captain when he came in, so I do think he was away, mate.
Aye, because they all sort of had a shot at it in pre-season, didn't they?
Aye, a few of them did. Aye.
Well, he lost Brown, who was main man for Celtic for years. He knew he was going to lose Christie, Ayer and Edward because they obviously were wanting away for quite a wee while. He had to replace him, and that's just 4 boys that he's had to replace who were major players for Celtic. They were a big part of what the Celtic had done under Rodgers, and to come in and sign JP says maybe 17 players over 2 transfer windows to totally overhaul the system, the way we played. It's unbelievable what he's done. I never seen it coming. I just didn't think we would be good enough this year. I thought the team across the water would get better because they'd been together for 3 years. Hopefully I was wrong. Sorry. Thank God I was wrong. I can only see Celtic getting better under Ange, and by that I mean European football, because that's where we all strive to be, to get better. Domestically, it's a 2-horse race, the same as it is in most countries in Europe. Where you're viewed, I think, is European football, and as I've said before, Celtic's only been in the group stage 3 times in 20 years, and that's deplorable for a team of Celtic's budget. So hopefully going forward in the group stages, we can get the points to go into the last 16 and buy better players again, knowing they're going into the Champions League. So I think it's all rosy in the garden anyway.
As for me, John, don't you think, JP? I know what John says there, it's the European side. I think for me, I'm not talking for the fan base, I'm just talking for what I see on social media and what I hear about fans, etc. Some fans for me just accept that we're Celtic and we can't compete with these teams, that we should, if we go out, and they just accept it. And for me, especially after the Bodo Glimt game, they were like, oh, it's Bodo, they're a good team. I'm like, we're Celtic. We've got a fuck. I know people. I don't like looking at the budgets too much, because it doesn't matter how much money you spend on the park. If you don't play well, you don't play well, and on the day you don't play well. Yeah. But like John says, the budget we have got, I know Bodo Glimt are a good team. They're very well organised. They've got very good players. They obviously the Arctic Circle going there -8, -10. It doesn't matter how good you are. It's very hard to play in the conditions when you're not used to it. But the way we went out for me was a big whimper. And no matter what people say, we technically did get knocked out of 3 competitions, and for me, it's not good enough. Yes, Ange came in. The Champions League was a bit of a fight away, to be fair. It was going to be hard to qualify with the squad we had, considering we came back, basically manager, no one place. Group stages, we did do okay. We get more points than obviously Rangers, and they actually went to the final. So just shows how crazy football works. But I think, JP, it is a big thing for me, European football, especially Celtic. And Mr. Lawwell keeps saying about us for a Champions League club. Obviously now we are. But I think now, with the money that we're going to get, there's even talking about guys like Dembele going, you might get more money after that. Tierney might go away if Arsenal sign Hickey. You don't know. There's going to be money flying about the club. Every capacity, I think, for me. Guys can out, guys can win. This is, for me, where I kind of wish this happened when... I don't want to go back in time, because I'm kind of going back time here, but see when Rangers went down to 3rd division, I wish this is where we were now, because we just spend and go fucking miles ahead. For me, JP, this is where we are now. This is where maybe we should have been years ago when Rodgers came in. And I think now, I don't think they're going to slack with the money now. I think under Ange, I think we're just going to continue to strengthen that. And I'm not going to jump the gun and going to say we're going to go for another 10 in a row. We're going to win 5, 6. We've only just won a fucking league title back here. But with the money that we've come in, we've really no excuse now to fly ahead of Rangers, in my opinion. If they don't qualify for us Champions League stages, we've really no excuse, in my opinion. We've got to strengthen and keep going and get, like John says, better players, in my opinion, or want to come to us now. And I think you've got at least 7 players in your squad, big assets that you can sell. I know you don't want to sell them, but I was even saying to John today, guys like Cal McGregor, they're talking about Calvin Bassey for Rangers having a good 4 or 5 months of a season. They're wanting 20 odd million from him. So what's Cal McGregor worth? 50 million? I know he's not worth that, but do you know what I mean? It's things like that. So we've got a lot of assets, and like John says, I don't want to say the league take care of itself, but the league's due to 2 teams. But I think European football, you can take a glimpse of it this year. You can be progressed a wee bit, but I think what John says, next year, you need to try and either finish 3rd, at least a good solid 3rd, but you really want to try and compete and get to the last 16. Yes, it's going to be hard, but like John says, if we're going to spend a bit of money, there's no reason why we can't progress to the last 16. And again, the draw's got to be kind to you.
Well, to be fair, I think that to take for Angie's speech when we got the title last Saturday, when we were getting the league trophy, he says next season we're going to be bigger and better. To me, that sounds like there's already work underway behind the scenes. And when I say work, I mean there's already work happening to make sure we've already spent money and progressed in terms of bringing more recruitment in to help us. But we need to slow down sometime as well, because sometimes spending money and keep doing it, sometimes that doesn't work.
All right.
Because if you look at your PSGs and Man City, look at the amount of money they've invested, they've still never won what they've been chasing for the last 4, 5, 6 years under the current boards that they've got. So it doesn't always buy you success.
We've got to spend it. What I mean is, we've got to spend it and recruit wisely when the money, see like years
But
ago.
that's
Aye.
been a formality just
Aye.
for us this season alone, because in my opinion, mate, every one of the signings he's brought in have all been quality. They've all brought quality to the team. They've made Celtic better. Every one of them. The only one that's probably not been judged, and fair dues, he got a bad injury, and then the team were playing that well. He just couldn't get into the team, or he just couldn't fit him into the team somehow. It was Gucci.
Mhm.
But he came on the last day of the season, and albeit the last day of the season, he looked really, really tidy. All his passes were all forward. They were all quick. They had a bit of zip on them. He looks quite a tidy player, in my opinion, for the wee kind of cameo bits I've seen him. He's not showed much because he's not been in the team. But out with him, mate, I can't think of a bad signing that's no contributed. Even when the big lad did play, he had a poor game. The last game we've properly seen him was away to Bodo Glimt, big scales, and he was poor that night. But so was the whole team. So you can't just hang one guy out to dry just because he was only bought for 600 grand. So, in terms of recruitment, that's what's been key this season for me, Ryan. I don't know about you lads, but the recruitment this season has been right on the money. You look at the money we've spent on individual players, £1 million for Joe Hart, that's frightening for a guy that experience. A guy that's played at the top level, internationally and in Europe. You're looking at 1.3 million becomes a formality now for Maeda, and that's a 4-year contract. Now, Ange confirmed that at the Dundee United pre-match presser. So that's just Toby's on to an automatic 4-year deal. So it's not like he'll be coming and being traded.
Mhm.
Well, he might be, but I strongly doubt it, because in my opinion, he's already a Celtic player. So the only ones, and then you're looking at maybe Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers. The positives I can take for that is they two weren't in a hurry to go elsewhere. They've been away on holiday with the boys for the team.
Mhm.
So if they were leaving, if they were, other players disappear very quickly and go and look to try and tie up something else, whereas they boys have stayed with the squad and they've all went to Ibiza and spent a few days there, and now we're hearing obviously through very media sources that the Jota thing's gathering pace. In my opinion, I think the two deals have already been done in the background, and it's just down to now the players going and having a rest, and then when Celtic are ready, they'll announce what they're going to announce. In terms of recruitment, I think the recruitment again is already well and underway, because that's the way Ange likes to work. He'll not tell the media anything because he'll not give it away. Because you heard them saying to them, whenever we're linked to players or whatever, it'll be fairly quickly after that, they'll sign or we'll know. Simple. And Ange isn't the type of manager going with just what we've experienced here. He's not going to let that become a saga with Jota and Carter-Vickers. He'll want that done fairly quickly. So I think he's recruited really well, and I would trust him now moving forward with any sort of nest egg to go and pick the right players to take us to the next level. And I think that's his plan as well when he says to the fans, bigger and better. I think that's what that means. Obviously, we're going into Champions League, so it becomes a formality that you need to be better than what you already were, so that you can show better quality than maybe what you did. This season we just fell short, man, with too many new players in the team, try to still bed in, and I think the Bodo tie, I'll be honest, mate, I know we were poor, but I think the caught is called as well, mate. I don't actually think we really knew how good they were until they came, and it was at that point it was too late. So I'm not too worried about the whole terms of recruitment, because I've got every faith that the recruitment will be done, and it'll be done properly, because Ange showed us already that that's the only way he conducts himself, mate.
No, I agree, mate. Can't argue with his recruitment. Obviously, Jason, JP says guys like Gucci, Maeda, even guys like McCarthy. I think McCarthy's still got quality. You can see when he's on the park. He might not be the James McCarthy that he was 5 years ago in the Premier League, but he keeps the ball simple. And again, there's rumours that he might be obviously maybe one that guys that might go away. But I think the fact they gave him a 4-year deal, they'll obviously need to pay him up if that's the case. But to me personally, I like to keep him, because I think with the football these days, you do need squad players you do need a squad, especially next year, Jason. We're going to be in a lot of competitions next year, so you need a squad. Obviously, you're going to have maybe 16 brilliant guys who are going to play most every week. You're going to have maybe your 25 guys like Mickey Johnson, maybe still kicking about, get McCarthy. The guys who dip in and out the squad. But I think, what's your opinions? What obviously John and JP says there, Jason?
I think with the Gucci one, I think now that he'll get maybe a chance now with Beaton and Roger leaving the club. You know what I mean? That sort of frees up space from there. But I agree with JP. But what I seen him in the Motherwell game, very forward thinking, he's quite quick. You know what I mean? With McCarthy, I'm with you, Ryan. I think he's offered something. I thought he came on against Motherwell. He done really well with that shot. I think he's still.
That was going in, Jason.
Huh?
That shot was going in. If it wouldn't have hit by CCV, that was heading into that corner.
I think that's what we need in Europe, to be honest. Somebody that, if the game's tight or whatever, they can just come on and slow it down and get stuck in. And then we're talking about the money and all that. But we're in the position now, because we're getting the Champions League money where we can go to Benfica, right, much you wanting for him. Right, that's fine, we can pay that for Jota. And if you go back to Spurs, how much you wanting for Carter Vickers, right, that's fine, we can pay that now. Do you know what I mean? And that's the position that we're in. But I think that we need to keep the team together for a couple of years before we think we can see what happens when it comes to Europe. I do agree with JP on the whole Bordeaux Gump thing. I think I don't realise how good a team. I don't realise how good they were. Do you know what I mean? But no, he's not signed a bad player. He hasn't. Do you know what I mean? And as well as we've been in Europe next year, I think that for McCarthy and the Gucci and all that will get a bit more game time, because he's going to have to rotate if he's playing on a Wednesday and on a Saturday game, because if he's playing Champions League on a Wednesday, it's going to be really hard to play at that high intensity, especially with the way that Ange plays. I think, do you know what I mean? But just the players that he's signing, I mean, he basically, as John said, he basically lost the spine of his team when he came in. And to find a goalkeeper or not, to be with Barkas and Bain. And I just think that it's just, every signing, it's what, whether or not the signings that he makes going forward work or not, but you can't expect to get every single signing right. But so far he has. But yeah, I think that this year in Europe, I would take finishing third and then going to the Europa League. That's what I think. That would be good. But again, as me and Ryan were talking before we come on, it all depends on the group, because the luck we've got will be the group of death as usual.
It will be, because we're in pot 4, so no doubt it'll be. I'd take Frankfurt. I would take them, because they're in pot 1, aren't they?
Aye, good side, but by the way,
they are a good side.
They're a good side. Do you know what I mean? Very, very well organised, very drilled counter-attacking team.
Yeah, they're good on the ball. No, they play for the lines quite well as well.
Aye.
For me, Jason, obviously I know we're going back again, but obviously spoke at Bordeaux Glimp game. I don't know what you thought about the European campaign, John, but I just believe that Celtic shouldn't be getting beat after these teams, personally, at these leagues. I think the way we are, maybe I'm being too overconfident or too over Celtic, I don't know, but I know these Scandinavian teams are very good, and the way they scout their players and the way they play their football are very good, and the managers are very up and coming. But see teams, for me anyway, Copenhagen, Midtjylland, Bordeaux Glimp, Malmo, Molde, Celtic shouldn't be beat after him, like you said. I know you don't. If you go on budgets, it just shouldn't happen. But I know football's no on budgets. But I think that's what we need to do better next year. If you do maybe get a team in your group like that, I think you need to win. I do agree with maybe caught cold by maybe the Danes maybe underestimate. I don't know. But the European campaign, John, I know we'll touch on what's happened this year with obviously the league results, but I think next year, I think as well, it'll put Ange again in a short window, John, if he does well next year. I know fans don't want to hear that, but he's going to have a lot of suitors now because of what he's done. People might say, oh, Ryan, why are you trying to get him away? I'm just being realistic. This guy's an elite manager now, in my opinion, and what he's done. I said, I think John, we spoke that after the Rangers game at Ibrox, he opened a lot of doors for himself getting that win because it basically kind of got his, no the league title, but it gave you a big push towards the league and on TV. And like he says, his coverage is going to be everywhere now. Japan, Australia, he's going to be everywhere. So whatever he does from now on in, it's going to be looked at very, very highly.
Regarding European football, I think the major issue with Celtic every year was lack of planning.
Yep.
We weren't signing players early enough, as usual. And that almost costs Celtic every season. That lack of planning, poor recruitment. We have had groups of death and whatever. Scandinavian opposition are very difficult to beat. They're very well disciplined, strong, quick, mobile. There's a fucking Scandinavian football. There's a bed of fucking talent. There's so much talent there. And as you've seen the last couple of years, plenty of boys for there have went to Europe and done well. Lack of planning is the one for me. Just is it 3 out of the last 4 campaigns Beaton's played at centre half.
That was the last time, John. That was the last time we made the Champions League. I know he was at centre back.
Aye, that's not right. It's not right.
No, it's. I think that obviously. I think this year, I don't think we'll have that lack of planning. Obviously, John, there's going to be a lot of outgoings as well as maybe a few incomings. I think when it looks at Barca, Soro, Ayeti, they guys will obviously be sold. Whether we get any money back from, I don't know, but it'll free up a lot of wages. And obviously, for me, I'm somewhat a JP. John, I don't think if Vickers and Jota have signed, the deal's done and I just went to announce it. I don't think this is just getting agreed now. It's either done or it's no. And obviously, your thoughts on they too, John. For me, Vickers has been. I maybe go as far as to say he's probably the best since Van Dijk that I've seen. He's so solid. He's quick. He reads the game very well. Even Europe, he's shown up very well. Starfelt's come onto a game, but I think maybe Starfelt's help. He's been helped by playing next to Vickers. I think when Starfelt played next to Welsh, he was a wee bit. He was a bit uncanny. As soon as Vickers and they two had been together, the stats have showed you. I don't think we've lost a game in the league when they're together. So that tells you all you need to know. I think that people maybe say Vickers is maybe a very important signing. I think you need to get the two of them done because the two of them are brilliant. It's better for me, Jota is just. I think Jota's going to be a superstar. I really do. I think once he gets everything consistent on a weekly basis, I don't think he'll be here long. I think if you sign him if he's day signing for what we're going to get him for, I'll say 2 years, 2.5 years. I think he'll be away. The guys, if you keep playing Europe and he gets put himself out there, and for what I've seen from him and what he's done this year in his first year, I think he's brilliant. He's one of the best.
The Rangers are greeting now.
No, listen, I'm just a realist, JP. When you get these players and they do very well, you might be in Champions League and it might give you an extra S to keep them. But you know yourself, mate, it just takes 6 months for a good player in the English market and foreign market to pick them up. But I think, John, they two are very, for me, they're signs I think we need to do because, like Jason says, you need to try and keep these guys together.
Well, they certainly improved the team anyway, didn't they? But I think Celtic definitely need another quality centre half. Somebody of the same abilities as the two have got. I don't think Julian's going to cut the mustard anymore. I think Ange's made it blatantly obvious. He's not on the plans. For me, Stephen Welsh isn't good enough. And the other young boys there are not good enough to play at Champions League level or even Premier League level. I want to see another centre half brought in to give 1 or 2 maybe a rest when we're playing in Europe, and then you're playing the Saturday, or Sundays, whatever it is. You've got difficult games. You're going to need that full squad for this season. And I don't know what positions you think need improved, but definitely for me, you need another quality centre half. You need another quality goalkeeper, similar to the standard of Joe Hart, to keep him on his toes, to maybe even push him to be even better than what he's been. But I'm interested to hear what positions you think we could improve on.
Me, I think every position. I think you need to improve every year. I don't think there's a position that we don't need. I think up front, I like another. I know you've. For me, I don't know what my head is. Is he a winger? Is he a striker? I don't know what he is. I don't know what Anne sees him as.
A machine.
For me, a lot of people were saying Kyle goes the main man. For me, I think Jackie Marcus is just as good. For me, for the way Jackie Marcus is playing and what he's done, I think next year will be a goal machine. You've got for they two, you've got two, in my opinion, you've got two quality strikers. Celtic always have. Obviously, guys who's a bit older than me, Celtic have also quality strikers every single year they play. These two for me are quality. I think maybe adding another JP, another quality striker would maybe help. You all know my situation with the left back. I think we're the left back. Goalkeeper, I would agree with John, and it's a goal to push Joe Hart, because for me, Scott Bain does the cut and the mustard. They might be good in the changing room, but knows a second choice goalie. I'm agreeing with you, Jason. I think midfield we need a bit of a hard man. I think all season, I know we've done very well, successful trophy wise. I just think we're too nice, far too nice midway apart. We just accept free kicks against us, we accept fouls, we don't go in to the referee, we don't make a tackle sometimes. But I think JP, I just think you just need to progress every year, and maybe every position at least get one in and just push, as John says, push these guys on there.
I would agree with you, mate, but in terms of the Champions League and the teams that we're going to be coming up again, they're a massive step up for the Europa League again.
Mm-hmm.
So see the teams you're getting in there, you're going to places like the Bernabeu and Anfield and Etihad and Paris, and in my opinion, we need players that are good with the ball under pressure. We need boys that can take the ball under pressure in tight areas and don't panic and still find a way out. Boys that, as John says, I know the way Ange wants to play out for the back. I know he's had a great season, right? I think Tony Ralston sometimes can be a bit panicky when he's harried. When he's rushed, if there's a wee mistake in him, don't get me wrong, he's developing his game, which is fine. He's a magic season. I'm not slagging the guy. I just think in certain moments, like I've seen him in a couple of the Derby games this season, there's been certain moments in the games where he's kind of showed me a bit of nerves, a bit of see against teams like PSG, Man City, Liverpool. These teams will destroy you. You make one mistake, they'll destroy you. Before you know it, you're 2 goals done because you've switched off, or you've done something stupid with the ball, or you've not kept the ball and you've tried to play a backward pass. It's just not enough on it. And you need players that are 100% switched on, guys that can take the ball in a half turn and go at people. And you need better ball players. And in my opinion, we need at least another 3 to help us, with the guys that we've got. I think we need another athletic type midfielder. Somebody to sit in at the number 6 and allow McGregor to move. Because McGregor can get about the park, no bother. I think Haddadi can get about the park, no bother. He was just running an empty there because of the amount of football he's played. I think with a full rest with him, I think I would actually say he might be a contender for Player of the Year next season. I think he's quality. I really, really do. You can see it in him. His first time passing is unbelievable. His reading of the game is unbelievable, I know. The 3-0 game against them at Parkhead, he was outstanding that night. His 2 goals, plus his energy levels that night were unbelievable. He was chasing the ball way back to the goal, getting in people's way. His reading of the game was really good. So you can see a player in him, definitely. I think we need somebody else, somebody with a bit more, like, I would say a bit of dig about him, a wee bit stronger. Just maybe a bit height would help us as well, I think, in there. I think we need another left back. Also, I would even say we need another right back to help us if something happens to Juranovic. Strikers they're worth their weight in gold, Brian. Good strikers, mate. We've got 2 belters through the middle. But I don't care what MD says, mate. I'll talk to him blue in the face with us. If Kyogo and him, if they 2 are fit, fully fit and ready to go, Kyogo's light years ahead of anybody in that team, mate. Kyogo's got Larson about him, mate. He's got that quality, mate. He just, again, I think he's in a game for 80 minutes, mate. He can score a hat-trick in 10 minutes. He's that good. And for me, playing in a bigger, the wee man plays when the game's at height. See, when the game's heightened, he seems to, he's one of the players that's going to shine on a big stage, mate. And I think the Champions League will certainly help him. And Giakoumakis as well, but he brings something different to us that we've not had in a long, long time, probably since Big Jan Vennegoor. He brings a strength, and he can bring the ball in. He draws fouls. He's going to be brilliant for us away from home in Europe. He'll draw fouls in a game, mate, to bring us up the park. When we're maybe against the teams that, you know, are good with the ball, they're going to press us higher, because that's what you, and effectively that's what you're going to come up against. You're going to come up against teams that are pressing you. And see, even these teams like Sheriff, Tiraspol, and all these teams have all developed and all, so they're getting better too. So the game's becoming a massive speed throughout games now, and muscular endurance is coming into it now. And there's a lot of technicality about the game now. And I just think we need a few in to help us. Guys that are better on the ball and better at taking the ball under pressure. Matt O'Reilly's going to be very good next season. I think he'll be a big help for us in the Champions League. You can just see raw quality in that boy. And he's good with the ball. He's good with the ball in tight areas. He seems to produce his best football when he's being hard. If somebody's rushing onto him or he's trying to be harried, you can see he can find a pass. He can shift his leg for that leg onto that leg. He's comfortable with the ball. And we need guys like that, I think. And I agree with John. I don't think Stephen Welsh is going to cut the mustard back. So I think he could be away in the next year or two. I think boys like Adam Montgomery and I do think these boys will need to get moved on. I kind of like to keep a hold of the big boy Uragidi, because I've heard a lot of good things about him in Belgium this season. And you don't get the suitors after you when he was at Sheffield Wednesday, albeit we go to Signature. But it was good to Arsenal, and there was a few other clubs in about him. And I don't know, I just think, and I thought he was excellent against Real Betis. He had a bit of a shaky start, but I thought he grew into the game. And I thought he looks like a big machine. He looks like another big Micah Richards up and down the side of the park that night. I thought he was outstanding for us that night. Time. So he's a player I'd like to see a wee bit merry. Maybe a bit more in pre-season to see, you know, obviously we're going to Austria, so let's see, give him a shot in there and see what he can do. So I think he can play centre-back as well. But I agree with John, I do think we need, if you're keeping Vickers and you've got Starfelt there, I think we need somebody in there beside the two of them that can have the two of them looking near their shoulder, because they two are comfortable now. I don't think Big Julian's going to cut it either. I think he's going to get moved on. I don't think Ange fancies him for whatever reason. He'll not play him. So it tells you that he's either can't play the way Ange wants to play, or he just doesn't. Ange just doesn't see him in his plans long term. And I agree. I think Stephen Welsh is going to be surplus to the requirements here time. And that's not to say he's a bad player. He'll go and do well for somebody like Dundee United, or but just at our level, because now we want to play in the Champions League and we want to be doing stuff like that. So I don't think Stephen Welsh is a guy you can turn to if longer term. If one of your boys was to the boys that have been playing this season was to drop an injury and boot for a significant amount of time.
I think for me, Jason, like John and JP said, but Julian, I think you need. I know he's only got a year left. I think you need to try and get some money back from him if you're going to sell him. I don't think we can just let him go. You can't pay £7 million for a guy and let him go for nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I think Ange, by the sounds it, doesn't fancy him. The fact that he's come out and I understand his frustration that he's not playing and he says he's fit, but the fact he's been fit since February and Ange hasn't played him, it kind of tells you doesn't fancy him, or like JP says, he can't adapt. Interesting, obviously, Jason, you can I go back to what we were saying there? Obviously, on what JP says about Kyogo and Giakoumakis, I think Kyogo's up. I think he's. I'm not going to say world class, but I think the two of them are very, very good. And I think that I'm not saying Kyogo's. I don't think he's miles apart for Giakoumakis. I think they're two different players. I think see games at Ibrox or even Rangers. I think Giakoumakis fits that bill compared to Kyogo. I think he should have played him. I think was it the semi-final? I think was it semi? Or the game at Ibrox? Or the game
I don't think he was fit for a semi, was he?
Sorry, it's a game at Celtic Park. Sorry, he should have played him. I think we'd have won the game. I think Kyogo. I think they're two different games. Like JP says, maybe in the away games in Europe next year, Giakoumakis can play, hold the ball up, get you get you that 5-second rest to get guys up, like McGregor to push up. The home ties, Kyle can run them ragged. So you've got a best of both worlds. You can, like JP says, I think JP, you've spoken for months on this podcast. When he signed, it was brilliant. Somebody different, strong, physical, elbows in people's faces. And you've seen that, Jason, this year against Rangers. As soon as he played against Rangers, big goals, he couldn't handle them. Hans Eram, fucking different challenge.
Even Big Shirley.
Aye, Big Shirley Bassey. But for me, Jason, what's your opinion? And obviously what the guys were saying.
I do agree about the Stephen Welsh. I've thought of that for quite a bit of time now. That I don't even think it any sort of loan. I just don't think he can make that step up. I think he is a Dundee United. I think he maybe an Aberdeen would be a good fit for him. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think that he's no. I just don't think he's got it for it. Julian, he's away. You know what I mean? I think when he came out and he said that on social media, and then the fact that he didn't play him against Motherwell told me that was it. That he wasn't going to play for them.
Wasn't he in the squad, was he?
No, he wasn't in the squad. But I think Julian thought that he was just going to get fit and he was going to walk back into the squad again. But man was like, well, I can't just split my back change my back foot to suit you. Do you know what I mean? And I think he will be sold. But in regards to getting another centre half in, we spoke about it in the chat, and it does get mentioned enough. Phil Jones is out of contract with Man U at the end of the season. They're going to have a massive overhaul. But European experience.
Do apologise. John's got something in his eye at the moment.
European experience. Look what he's won. People, I mean, we brought Tory up, and he done well. I just think that
he's won every trophy going into, apart for the Europa Conference League. Aye. Because he's won the Champions League and he's won the Europa League too.
You don't make 130 odd appearances for Man U if you're a dud. Do you know what I mean? I don't think. I'm not saying he would come up here and he would play every week, but I think he would. If the opportunity came up, I think it would be something that Celtic would maybe consider.
I agree.
By rights, Jason, Phil Jones, I know what you're saying. By rights, Phil Jones should come up here and see what he should, right? But I'm kind of like John, as much as I think he's experienced and I think he might do well. I just want to pay the wages for a guy to come up here. I think we done it with Shane Duffy, didn't work out. For me, I don't think Phil Jones fits the ball that we want to play. Can Phil Jones really play high-intensity football with the ball at his feet?
What age is he, Ryan?
I don't actually know, mate. 30.
Is he in his 30s now? Aye.
Me personally,
Man U for 9 or 10 years.
I understand what you're saying, Jason, that you don't play for Man U at that length of time.
By the way, he played with a Man United team when Man U were decent.
See if he's a free agent, right, Jason, and he's not going to get mega wages, and you get a free shot on him for a year or two, you can maybe, you know what, we'll give him a chance. But for me,
if he's a free, right, and he's going to, and Celtic come in and they go, right, well, we'll give you 16, 17 grand a week, you can play Champions League football, you can potentially get your career back, come up here for 2 years, you're only going to be 32. I think the Celtic back, I'd be like that. Do you know what? We'll take a punt on you.
I think a guy like that would be a bit like Joe Hart, he'd be a very calming influence on my dressing room.
100%, mate, 100%.
I can understand.
I think he's a guy that players will look up to as well in terms of his experience levels and everything else.
Look at when we had Kolo Toure.
Yeah.
Was it Astana? It was a European game. He came on and just completely calmed the game down.
Aye, did he? He made a nice help to stick. No, was it not who was the mob we beat the year before? We beat Astana and then was it the Hapoel Beersheva?
Aye, and he came on in the game just talk.
He just showed it right up, man, completely.
He seen him go, everybody just calm it down. That if we want to do well in Europe, that's the type of player we need. Somebody that's got European experience.
One or two of them, I would agree with you, mate, because as you said there, the calming influence and obviously the older head and the experience that they've played at. To me, a guy like that would be a no-brainer. I'm not saying that he would be. I'm not claiming he's world class or he's this, that, and the next thing. I just think he'd be a great fit. I could maybe see him going to an Arsenal. And Arsenal doing really well in the Europa League next season just because they've got a guy like that helping them at the back, you know what I mean?
I can agree with the experience side of it, but I'm similar to John. I
You
just
don't
worry,
know. You don't know about the footballing ability side of it.
I just want to take a punt on him. I think you can get better for maybe cheaper than maybe the wages that he might demand. I don't think he would come
I
here
get
for
that.
pennies. I don't think he would come in here for pennies. I think you would need to give him at least half he was getting at Man U. Especially when he knows, John, that he's going to be in the Champions League. He's going to be demanding money, and he's going to be probably demanding to play week in, week out. And for me, if we're going to get a guy like that, he's got to come in and play. You can't come and give him 20 or 30 grand a week and no play. Well, you can, but realistically, I don't. You can't Celtic. You can't splash that money in guys and no play them. I can totally get the Jason JP's points, John, but I'm like you with your face. I just want to touch on my basketball.
I think, considering the state that Man United centre halves have been in the last 3 or 4 years, and he can't get a sniff, tells me he's miles off it. I know he has had a few, maybe no serious injuries, long-term injuries. It's maybe hampered him a wee bit as well, but he's not for me. Put it simple as that.
I think we do need that. I think we do need that. We need a left back and all. As much as I think Taylor's been absolutely brilliant this year and he's really improved. Again,
I think he's looking at 2 boys now. I've been rumoured with 2 now. I've been rumoured with the boy Hammarby, and there's this Argentinian boy appeared there the last couple of days now, the boy Ortega. So there's
South American boys don't cut it in Scotland, didn't you know?
They've not done too well up to now, John. No, the ones that have been here. The only one that kind of was okay. 1 or 2 of his games was Juninho for us, but out with that, I mean, he made his debut. At Parkhead, and we beat him 1-0, and he might get man of the match that day, didn't he? So then after that, but he came in a new team that half the time they missed out in the midfield. So it was a kind of hard slog for him, to be fair, on that side. I think if he was to come in a fully fit Juninho, young, was to come in an Ange type Celtic team, I think he would absolutely flourish, mate. Just his skill set alone.
I just think South Americans, not just Celtic, Dundee United, Dundee, Hibs, Aberdeen, whoever have signed from Scotland, they've no cut it here for some whatever reason. They've no done it.
With that Mexican boy and all that Barres and all that done the World Cup, then Lennon signed him and he was just.
He had a good Emirates tournament, didn't he? And then he just fell apart after it.
I was discussing with Kyogo and Giacomakis. I don't know, man. I literally changed my mind through the game. The Motherwell game, I was like, oh, Kyogo's brilliant, and then Giacomakis came on, and I'm like,
he comes on and scores too, I know.
Do you know what I mean? But I do think, I know I went back to it again. You look at Martinelli's team, it's 3 quality strikers. So I think he will get another one, especially if Ayeti's going to go.
See what Ayeti, I still think for what I've seen for Ayeti for Basel, the guy's a goal scorer. He's just no cut it here, and he came to Celtic unfit. Went to West Ham, didn't really play. Obviously tells you maybe they didn't rate him at West Ham, but they signed him for a decent amount of money. He came to us and it just didn't work. But certain games last season against Lille, etc., he played well in certain games last year. But him and Elanusi linked up really well, and I'm thinking there's something there to play with Basel, etc. You must have something in you. But like we've all said last year, whoever came in last year just didn't play well. Another topic for the season, John, obviously, is maybe the turning point of the season. Obviously, there was a lot of, like we've said, about Ange getting sacked, etc. Players maybe not playing well or whatever. For me, it was a game at Aberdeen. I think there was a lot of calls if he didn't win the game. He was maybe getting punted for the media, etc. We all knew he wasn't getting punted, but there was a lot of pressure to win that game, and obviously Jota came up trumps for us that day, and that was maybe the pathway for him again to push on. But for me, John, I think it was a first away game, won a long time as well. So I think for me, that was a game for me that turned, in my opinion, that turned the season for me.
Would it be right in saying Celtic didn't win an away game for 5 months or something?
It was a long time.
That's poor, isn't it? That's very poor. But
that just shows you how bad we were, John. That just shows you how bad we were.
Aye.
We couldn't win an away game in the league. Not that we
Aye.
get any God-given right to go and win your away games, but
Absolutely,
I don't know how bad we were. You know what I mean?
But I think for me, that game, John, I don't know if there's any game that highlighted to you, but I know obviously the game against United were a bad goal, but I think that game for me was a big game. I think for Ange as well, personally, because I think there was a lot of pressure on him to win, no by Celtic fans, by the media, to win that game. And again, it was another game he came up trumps, and again, I thought we played really well that day. Aberdeen had one or two chances, but again, the press like to make out the Celtic whimper through games, and I thought he played well that day. But Jota for me, that was another game where Jota for me stood out, John.
aye. The game for me was the Ross County game. Anthony Ralston's goal in Fergie time. For me, that was a big turning point as well. For me, that was one of the reasons why Celtic won the league. Definitely.
With yourself, JP, I know there's a lot of games this year that we've got last minute winners, etc. Especially with the Fergie time goal.
I'm just taken back over that Fergie time. I've not heard that for years, man.
I think especially as well, because I'm not sure if Rangers got points that weekend, or roughly when they beat in, and it was we had to win. But for me, I think it was just the fact that we didn't win away away in the league for a long time, and then we got the victory under the pressure that we had to win. I think because, as I say, the media were just, fucking Angie's back, Celtic's back, because of the start we had. For me, I think JP, we spoke about it, that was, for me anyway, the turning point of Celtic. And I think ever since that game, that was when we started that big run, wasn't it? The boot in. So
I think it was, mate, aye. But I also think there was three. I don't even think the Ross County was one of them. I think there was three main games this season for us that gave the boys belief that they could actually go on and deliver. The first one was the momentum builder when Abada scores that last minute winner at Parkhead against Dundee United.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the next one was when the Wednesday night when we got to Rotherham in the derby and we absolutely lost them, we destroyed them. We totally took the game away from them altogether. 3-0 at half time, the scoreline flattered them. McGregor probably their man of the match that night. And I think that itself was a big, massive monkey off our back. Because let's face it, they beat us in the first derby this season and we hadn't laid a glove on them not the whole of the season before. So I think that itself was a massive, massive shifter. And it was obviously a big mentality shifter for us and for them, because I think it was then they took notice of us and went, I don't know, that's mob for real, especially under this manager. And then I think the third game was going to be to Livingston and hammer them 3-1 when everybody in this country thought we were going to drop points that day. Everybody, apart from us. We went away and we destroyed Livingston that day. We blew them away. And that was a place we've no won it since, was it 2009 or 2008 or something? It was something stupid.
Aye, but the media were quick to remind us of that every week.
Well, that's it, but they had every right to, Jace, because we had every time we went there, mate, we had to get beat through. We just couldn't, for whatever reason, we couldn't buy a win in their stadium.
Big Julian.
People were saying it was a surface, it was this, it was that. It was just a total mind shifter altogether. And then I think after that, the boys, and we went to Ibrox and we won, which was a big help to us as well. And I think after that, the boys knew that I think they started to believe themselves. Because let's face it, at the beginning of the season, they probably thought, they looked round about at one another and went, see if we can get close to them and close that 25-point gap, we'll be doing all right. But it's the fact that they've not only closed the gap, but they've then went away in the January break. The league's shut down for a couple of weeks, and we've came back and we've not lost a game. Frightening. What was it, 32 games unbeaten in the league? Absolutely frightening. Remarkable. It doesn't matter what league you're in, mate. That's unbelievable. And you deserve a title after that run of performances. That's half of the domestic run we put under Rodgers. I think like 60 games or 4 Hearts beat us 4-0 at Tynecastle. So to even get close to that has been frightening, especially with the start we had at the beginning of the season, boys. So as for me, these 3 big games have were big shifters in terms of our mentality and approach to the rest of the league. And I think the Livy one was the one that everybody thought they're going to drop points today. And they had already won because they were on, but they know any earlier than us that day.
Aye. They'd already won that day, aye.
They'd already won that day, so it was a case of, right, we had to go out and perform, and we did, we blew Livy away.
They were banking on us dropping points that day.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the whole country thought we were going to get beat a draw, which then would have put everything in their favour.
They knew if we had won up there, then that was it. I think they knew that
we kind of did, aye, and they knew ourselves. And then they started to gear up the ghost bit by bit, because they saw how well we were playing. And then in the last derby, we had a few chances before they even get back into the game to bury the game. So, if anything, I want to take forward into next season, as I want us to be a bit more clinical when we do have a chance. Because if we do, some of your games will be finished before 20 minutes or half an hour into them, because we're
see about that, JP.
to take our chances.
See what you're saying about being more clinical and all that. I think that just comes down to the fact that Giakoumakis and Kyogo were injured for half the season.
Yeah, there you go. You know what I mean? And we're talking about Giakoumakis was injured for how long? Half the season.
He basically only played about 5 months of the season.
Right. So, and he finished joint top scorer.
Incredible.
A guy who played a full season with Ross County. And by the way, that's remarkable for a guy with Ross County to be up there challenging for top scorer of the season. I'm not taking anything away for the boy, but considering the time he missed and obviously the time that Kyogo missed, they weren't far away for finishing top scorer. I think in total Kyogo played 33 games for Celtic this season and he scored something like 20 or 21 goals. Coming for a full season and a half in Japan. That's frightening. I don't care about it.
I think phenomenal. If you get them two fighting fit and sharp, they two could, one of them two is hitting 35 goals next year, man.
Easy.
And
that's just the league. Aye, easy. I mean, big Giakoumakis, I thought he was going to be a hat-trick specialist at one point there. He was hitting hat-tricks every week. He had about 2 or 3 hat-tricks in a trot, didn't he?
The guys, for me, obviously Jason, I'm agreeing with you. I think Giakoumakis, his quality. I said it when he signed, he was brilliant. A lot of the fact that he scored 30 odd goals or something for a team that was bottom of the league, and that league tells you everything. But what was your when you thought the mind shifted, Jason, for the season?
It was 2 for me. I know. I think when we won the League Cup with Hibs against Hibs, I think that was just it clicked. And they were like that, we want to leave it more of this. And I think the Ross County game and all, that's when when we scored in the 96th minute, I was like that. I think we're going to do this here. But it was just, and then obviously, I think again beating them at Ibrox, I know, was just massive. But even going back to the first derby at Ibrox, they shouldn't have beat us because we were the better team. I think it was just, I think he get his tactics wrong because he played Kyogo. I mean, if Edward puts that, a normal Edward scores that man, he puts wide. Don't know how he misses that.
Just before half time.
Aye. The only thing he had today, if he hits it in a straight line, it's in. But he puts it wide.
I think he had to 1 minute for Hull that day, didn't he? He just, I don't know what he done, man. He scalped it, man, and it just, where's the ball gone? You know what I mean?
And then I think, gone to what JP said, Livingston away was, there's been so many, man. Do you know what I mean? There's been so many, but it was like, wow, if you need to think back. Dundee United 1-0, do you know what I mean? I think we were up to Dundee United when Rogic scored, we battered them up there, Rogic and Turnbull scored. That was we're up there, I know. Our away form's been really, really well, but for me, I think when we won the League Cup, it was just the pendulum sort of swung, and I was like, I think that's made them thirsty for me.
I think as well, the fact they've got a double, John, after last year as well, it just shows you that the club, the mentality, a lot of people have said that there's not a lot of winners in the Celtic squad. The squad's for winners. Like we've said, even the guys were signed, they've all won trophies in their other countries. Joe Hart for me has been, as much as Jota and Vickers, etc., been brilliant for me. Joe Hart's been the signing for Scotland. Yeah, I think the guys, the fact that people doubted him, I was one of his back. I couldn't believe he got for £1 million. Couldn't believe it. I was shouting at him to come last year when he was rumoured, and obviously we found out why he didn't come, because Celtic didn't see him any sell-on value. But it just shows you, John, that 2 or 3 people outside of the board that get changed, and the transfer, it just totally changes, because he signs a year later. So a year later, his value is lesser, but yet they sign him. It's bonkers. But for me, Joe Hart's phenomenal. He's basically a captain as well in the squad. He's a leader. There's even guys on Twitter, I know it might be fake accounts, etc., but there are even guys down south saying maybe get back to the English squad because he's better than Pickford. I think he's better than Pickford. I think he's better than a lot of English goalies. I think he's superb. Just because he's had 1 or 2 bad years, just because he's had 1 or 2 bad years and no playing, doesn't mean a bad goalkeeper. For me, I think he's very, very, very good, John. Especially next year in Champions League, he'll be very, very worth his weight in gold for us. But the last bit of podcast I want to touch on, John, is obviously Cal McGregor. There was a few doubts about him being the captain, me included. I didn't think he'd have been the man to step in. I was kind of maybe talking about Julian stepping in, because obviously Julian did seem a bit of a leader. But McGregor was obviously, when you look at what he's been at the club and what he's done, he was maybe the obvious choice for the manager's point of view, because obviously knows the club more than anybody else. Not just his football ability, John, that's no question. I think I've said it in the previous podcast with JP and guys that he could easily say, I know what to sell him. I said to you today, John, I think McGregor's got to sell all his career now. I think for me, if he was going to go, he'd have went with Leicester at Rodgers. I think he'd have went, and I think he's like, no. I think that he can still do a lot of Celtic. I think he's just going to get even better as a player under Ange, a better captain. He's learned the ropes after Scott Brown. I think as a player, he could easily go and play in the top 4 week in, week out down south, 100%. People might say I'm talk rubbish, but I'm very, very confident in that. I think he easily step into Arsenal and Man U and play every week, 100%. I think he's one of Scotland's most important players, but I think he's probably Celtic's most important player, John. Similar to Scott Brown, when Scott Brown didn't play, Celtic were a massive loss. I think McGregor, were a massive loss.
It's interesting, but that ties in with what Jason said, was winning a League Cup was a big thing for Celtic this year. For me, I was absolutely fucking delighted when Celtic won the League Cup, because it was just the first trophy that Cal McGregor was there as a captain for, and he won it. I was absolutely delighted for him. For me, he's the best player in Scotland. They're a fucking country mile. He's an absolute top footballer who could play in any league in the world. That's what I think. He's got every attribute you need. He can play anywhere in the middle of the park. He's absolutely outstanding. And Scotland should be building a fucking team run about him. I think it's only going to get better for Callum at Celtic. I think Celtic's going to progress. I hope we progress more in Europe, and he'll become a better player as well playing against these teams. It was a hard ass taking over for Scott Brown, who's an absolute fucking warrior, legend. But for me, he's the best player in Scotland. We're lucky to have him. As you say, he could play down south, but what age is Cam? 28, 29?
I think he's no long turned 28, John, aye.
Aye, so if he's going to go, I think he would go to now. He's peak years, but I can't see him leaving myself.
For me, JP, everything John says, I'm echoing. I think he is probably the best player in Scotland, and if you look at every aspect, technically, ability, mentally, physically, just everything, I think he's superb, and probably the same as John. I think Scotland, Steve Clarke should be building his World Cup hopes, etc. in years to come. McGregor, because I think he's, like John says, I think he's top to on, could play in many teams around the world.
Absolutely, mate. He's Rolls Royce. I've said it many times. I've said it on this podcast. He's Rolls Royce. He's, in my opinion, he's world class. I think he's a massive, massive reason as to why Scotland have had the success they've had recently in the last couple of years. I thought he was instrumental in Scotland getting to the Euros, along with the other boys as well. But see the way Scotland play, and the way that they can play through the lines now, and they can play football instead of just long balling it all the time. And I think him and Billy Gilmore have got a really good understanding for the Scotland games that I've seen the two of them play. I think they're our version to sort of Xavi and Iniesta. They control games. They get the ball down, they play. They're good on the ball, they're comfortable on the ball, they don't get harried. They can play in tight areas, they can play out of presses, and I think it's magic. I also think McGregor's became a very clever player now as well. He knows, he reads the game very well. His tactical plays got better. And I think Brendan Rodgers was a big help for him as well in terms of bringing him on. Hats off to Ronnie Delia for believing in him and giving him his debut and letting him let us see what he could do. But I know this might sound scary and people again might think I'm talking at my hand end, but I think Ange has made him better. Not only being the captain, but I also think he's a better footballer now for playing under Ange. I think he's took the responsibility of Celtic captaincy on his shoulders, and you can see it's as if he's been doing it all his career. His transition into it has just been absolutely unreal. The players all look up to him. You can hear the way they all talk. I've watched a recent one where it's him, Joe Hart, and Tony Ralston on talking. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Celtic TV. It's a recent one. It's just between the Dundee United game and the Motherwell game. Obviously, they're sitting with the Celtic polo t-shirts on. McGregor's got the training gear on. And you can hear the way Joe and Tony talk about him, the way he is on the training field, the way he is with the players. Joe Hart spoke at length about the way he was when he first came to the club. McGregor was the first one to go and meet up with him, and Juranovic does the exact same thing. So did Jota and so did Carter Vickers. They've all spoke very highly about him. So you can hear. But I think he's a big reason as to why our players have settled so quick by the way they have as well, including the Japanese boys. Because I think he's got them right away. They know what's expected of them, and right away they've kind of got Celtic, which is why it's been just a good fit for everybody. So McGregor's absolutely, in my opinion, he's world class, Ryan. I don't think there's any better than him. In Scotland, they're potentially, again, mate, I'm probably bumming him up too much, but I think he could go walk into any team out of the UK, and he certainly, when you look at a placement, definitely not.
No, I think everything you've said and everything, I think I've said myself and John, Jason, I think McGregor's superb.
You've got to look at guys like Jack Grealish, mate. You're telling me he's worth 100 million, and what's Callum McGregor worth?
And well, that's what I was saying to Jason before we come on there. Rangers fans, don't get me wrong, I think Calvin Bassey's done well, and I think he probably will get a move. I think the guy is turning out a decent player. I don't like admitting that other guys are good for their team, but he's done well for the last 2 months of the season. Probably will get a move.
Seems a big back boy as well, doesn't he? He seems like a big workhorse.
He's a good player. You know
he did play well against Hearts yesterday. He's a bit of silky skull, but then
he done well against Frankfurt and I've followed by their best player, to be honest.
If they are talking 20 odd money for him, like I says to John, what's McGregor worth? Do you know what I mean? It's things like that, but the English market is fucked. But your opinion, obviously, Jason, McGregor, I think, for me anyway, people in the media or the other side of the city might say, you're all talking pish. But if you know football, take away your Celtic specs off. You look at his stats, you look at his playing ability, you look at his done for Scotland, his trophy haul, who he's played with, and what he's still today. The guy's brilliant, man. He's for me, he's the first man. He's the first. I know he's a captain, but he's the first man in the team sheet. If he's injured, you're kind of. That's maybe a position, Jason.
Never injured.
Well, but I know. If it
he's the first guy to ever play 9,000 games in 4 years.
He's probably Jason.
He's still played. And he's still played.
For me, Jason, maybe somebody to come in and if he's injured or he's suspended or whatever, to come in maybe replace him would be a good acquisition to get. But how are you going to find Cam McGregor for cheap? You can't find that. He's if Celtic are going to sell him, which I don't think they're going to do, right? But Schiffer talks that you sold him. Who do you sign to replace a guy at that quality of the Celtic budget? I don't think you can, personally, Jason.
You can't.
Aaron Ramsey.
I put him in. He's in Paul McStay territory for me. I think that's how highly I regard him. You know, and the people turn around and say that he's not the best player in Scotland. He's just won every single award for Player of the Year this year. There was a clip of him in the game in the League Cup. There's a clip of him in the changing room. He's like that. We're better, stronger, physical in every aspect. I think he's like that. Let's go out and show them what we can do and all that. He's just, I agree with Ryan that he's just on JP, but with the D is that. That's why I think the team is the way that it's ticking, because it's just, I think when the new signings come in, he makes sure they're all right, and then he shows them what's expected of them at this club.
I've actually heard a rumour that Ange gave him that mask, not because he's got a broken cheekbone or anything like that, because Ange thinks he's a superhero.
But I think since Ange just came in, I think JP that said that he became more clever up here.
Yeah.
He said adapt his game more. He became more a defensive player, which I didn't. When Scott Brown was there, I was always like he was a goal scoring midfielder. He's maybe no scored as much this year, but he's defended a lot better. Look at the game against Ibrox when it went 1 each. He single-handedly turned that game for us because he got the ball and ran the full length of the pitch basically.
And let's be fair, see when he first started, did he not get caught for picking his nose? He done something stupid, didn't he? What did he do? He get caught drink driving or something, didn't he?
He get banned for driving. I'm sure to get a driver. I'm sure he's paying a driver to drive him about.
Aye, but what I'm saying is did he not get caught at a party up some close in Postal somewhere? Or?
Fuck knows. But
It was
he's obviously
something
his mindset. His mindset's changed, hasn't it? Aye.
Definitely. Aye.
I think his mindset's changed, Jason. I think that's it, like you're saying. He's totally.
I think he's realised he's been like, I'm the captain of the Celtic Football Club. You know what I mean? And he needs to conduct himself well on and off the pitch. You know, and I think as a young player getting in there, and if you want to expect to play for Celtic, so when it went in and it was Kieran Tierney, when Scott Brown says, what is it that you want to be to play for Celtic? He's like that, Scott Brown. That's what Callum McGregor's like for Celtic for me. When the young players come in, they're like that. I need to be like him. I want to be like him. And I just think that, I don't know, I mean, if they're saying that Bassey's worth 20 million, man, we shouldn't list me offer below 60 million for Callum McGregor.
Aye, but it's part of that, no EBT money.
Aye.
I mean, I've seen something today that they're trying to say that Aribo, Kamara, Kent, and Bassey, that they're worth 100 million.
See the thing for me, what you're saying, Jason. Aye, exactly. I think for me,
Bassey,
Aribo, Kent, and Bassey are worth 100 million.
and Kamara.
Ryan Kent's even worth £7 million. Simple as that. For me, John, Ryan, I've said it for years that see if you've got a lot of pace about you, it doesn't matter how good you are, you'll be a threat because of your pace. Look at Ollie Buck, quickest guy in the world, but technically at Celtic he wasn't very good. But because he had pace, defenders don't like pace, they don't like you turning. But for me, Ryan Kent's £7 million, no chance. If you look at his stats, his goal return, assist return, it's still good enough. I suppose Aribo was far better than Tom Rogic. Get that to fuck. Rogic is a far better player. Glenn Kamara was got to Juventus and now he's back to 50 grand. Glenn Kamara, Bassey, he's probably the biggest asset, to be fair. He might go for 10-15 million pound depending on the value down south. Shirley Bassey, probably.
It's the same as that they've been saying for 4 years that Morelos is going to go for 30 million.
He's been going for the belly dollars, isn't he? That's what he said at the beginning of it.
Again, right? See if Morelos was as good as what he's made out to be. Why is he still playing for Rangers?
Well, we had our worst season. This is what I can't get right. They won the league last season. We had one worst season in our club's history, potentially in the last years, probably, right? And Scott Brown left, obviously, he chucked it. But another 3 of your massive hitters, is what we would have called them, all left for more than 10 million. There wasn't even a bid tabled for any of their superstars or world beaters or whatever you want to call them.
There was that £40 million bid for that China club, remember?
As Peter Lawwell said, an unknown universe, an unknown club, aren't it, man? Everyone's. Obviously, let me talk about money. The last bit, obviously, it's a big review again, but I think, John, obviously the big kind of media highlight news, obviously the Mbappe deal. I know it's a bit off Celtic, but I think it's worth mentioning. He's basically going to be a director, basically 23, 24-year-old. The money that he's getting, we all understand, we've all played football. It's not just about kick the ball, it's a full brand. You're basically a brand, you can't do nothing. But no player, no matter how good you are, should be getting the money he's going to be getting. They shouldn't be getting the privileges he's getting. I just think it's absolutely, it's making football bad, because you're going to probably, people might tell me I'm full of shite, but see, maybe 10 years' time, the next up-and-coming superstar, they may get £2 million a fucking year, a month, sorry. It's just going to, especially with Sky are going to be in, you might get this DAZN who are doing boxing, they might come in and fucking get football. All these things are going to make football bigger. I just think wages, it's going to affect Celtic and Rangers, etc. as well, but down the line, I just think, John, it's absolutely crazy the way the market is.
Right. He's playing in an absolute shite league. Now, PSG's either going to win the league or it'll be a close second. Obviously, getting into the Champions League, they'll get to the quarters, maybe the semis. They'll not win it because they play against teams in a poor league. The way Celtic maybe struggle, it's maybe one of the reasons why Celtic struggle in Europe. We play in a two-horse race league and they can't up it in the big games. What's going to change? I can't see anything changing with PSG. I think it's fucking obscene that he's getting that type of money. The privileges, as you say, the power that guy's going to be getting, his own image rights, all that kind of fucking nonsense. When he could have went to Real Madrid and got a £200 million signing on fee, which is obviously outrageous again, obscene. But see, at the end of the day, that's all, no me personally, that's all our fault for subscribing to these fucking stations. That's why they're getting the money into it. I know they may be different because they're a state fucking owned football team. But it's the Sky subscription, Premier Sport, whoever it is, stop paying your subscriptions and nobody give these boys the money. Simple as that. The TV deals are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. People moan, stop paying a subscription now.
I think JP, it's just IPTV or isn't it?
Never heard that.
I think so. I think the IPTV boys are going to be rubbing their hands together now. They'll know they're going to be getting a lot of customers next season.
Wonderful.
No, to be fair, mate, I think that's absolutely disgusting by PSG themselves and Mbappe for even agreeing to something like that. And obviously he's going to because of the amount of money that's involved and everything that's there. But I think it's disgraceful. I really, really do. And I think the financial fair play should come in and maybe stop it. In terms of, I'm just trying to get my head around. So he's going to have a say-so on future managers. He's going to have a say-so on players. He's going to have a say. So what is his job then? Is he a player or is he a head of recruitment? Or what is his job title? Player stroke head of recruitment? Because see any manager worth their salt, they're just going to give him a finger and say, away you go. I'm not coming in for him to tell me he doesn't like me or I want to bring a player and no, I don't like him. Come on. You know what I mean? I know he's a young guy and he's an up-and-coming star and, you know, he's got a bit about him and he's done this and he's done that, but he doesn't want that amount of money, man. I mean, it's going to ruin him and it's going to ruin a lot in the French league as well. I mean, it's going to have a big knock-on effect. It's similar to that nutcases that came out, remember? And it was Man U and all that, we're all going to leave the league, remember?
The Super League.
They were all going into this other league that was going to make hundreds of millions of pounds from. Aye. It's just incredible. It's absolutely crazy. And in my opinion, I just think it's absolutely ludicrous. He's going to be getting £2 million a week wages. Are just over. It's just, I really don't know what to say.
Where does it stop?
I really did think football was heading in a direction where it was going to come into wealth and everything else, but we're hitting new extremes. You know what I mean? And a big boy Haaland, I mean, he's going to Man City next season and he's going to go on a fair pay, but he's not getting anywhere near that.
I think Jason, with JP says there, but obviously the wealth, right? Newcastle have got more money in PSG. So what the fuck can Newcastle offer players if fucking PSG's getting him that?
I don't even want to think about it, man. To be honest with you, look at this Mbappe. He could essentially go like that. Well, make me the manager then, and I'll just pick my fucking self. This is the kind of worms that they've opened up. You know what I mean?
Part ownership to Eddie Howe's toilet bag now.
And as you said, JP, I know it's any manager that's got a bit about them will be like, I'm not fucking taking that. If I've got a guy, but can you imagine you've been a manager? Actually, you starting in a company and you've got a manager, you've got 25 year managerial experience, then you put away get 22 going, you're shite, I don't want you a manager, and then you get sacked. You'd be like, hold on a minute. Do you know what I mean? What experience has he got about being a director of football? It's ludicrous.
See the other boys, what I don't get, Jason, see the other boys that's running about him, Neymar and other, these guys are so-called superstars, right? What are they going to be saying now?
Well, you know what?
Where's my money?
Like that. Neymar wants to be the star attraction, so he'll be off anyway.
Well, that's what I was going to say, and that's what John alluded to there. They've done fuck all in terms of European, because they get so far and then they fall away. They can't get by. It's the same as Man City. They get to a certain point in Europe and then they just come up. They can't. I remember it was a couple of nights before they went to the Bernabeu and they were ahead in the time. My dad's like, oh, Man City will do it. I said, don't bet on it, by the way, because they just seem to falter. I don't know what it is. They get to finals and semis and whatever, but they do something daft in the games that they just can't seem to get that line. And there you go, they went away and proved me wrong right away. They start the game very well. I think they went in front that night with Mahrez, and then they just fell apart. And Madrid just came right back into the game and showed the experience that, I mean, they've not won the tournament as many times as they have, to just write them completely off and say, Man City are going to run out of tap with this mob. Why? Because Man City have spent hundreds of millions of pounds in the last 4 years. Doesn't always work. And spending money like that doesn't always guarantee you success. Chelsea have done it, I know, and now they're away doing into third in the league. They're not even classed as the top two anymore. Liverpool and Man City are the two people that everybody are talking about. And then you go, the league finished today, and it was a ball here between it, a point. So
see what you're saying, but about teams spending money, right? Look at the money that Man U spent. 7th. They finished 7th.
Oh no, scary.
Do you know what I mean?
That's scary. And yet they've still made Europe.
I think it's...
So finishing 7th in that league is now a success.
It's just crazy, isn't it?
It's shocking. It's absolutely...
You're talking about like finishing 7th in success. That was England that started that. Or if you get top 4, you get Europe. So then clubs don't want to win the league. They're just saying, as long as we get top 4, then we're going to get... Then that's a successful season. But
the thing is, Jace, we won 9 in a row. We were league champions 9 seasons in a trot. And yet we had to play fucking 25 qualifiers to get to the Champions League before we even get there. But then you've got to play a playoff to get to the playoff, and it's fucking mental. It's just these teams are finishing 4th in the French league and the Spanish league. They're all walking into the Champions League group stages.
See that French league, man? It's fucking pish.
That's what John was saying there.
It's shite.
It's absolute rush.
It's fun. It's what you're saying leads on to the point I was going to say, JP, about money and like you should went to Real Madrid and done this. I said to John the day, John, Liverpool obviously are in the final against Real Madrid, and everybody, Jamie Carragher, they're totally dismissing Real Madrid. Real Madrid are serial winners in Europe, they're serial winners in the league. How can you just go because you're Liverpool? If Liverpool turn up today, we're going to win. You've got one of the best strikers for me. I think Benzema's better than Mane, Salah. For me, I think Benzema's unbelievable. For me, you've got one of the best finishers of the last 5-6 years in European football, playing with them. Real Madrid are still a top quality team, but yet Jamie Carragher, etc., Liverpool, John, are just dismissing just because it's Liverpool.
I just a bit to ask you on Mbappe. See all the circus running about Mbappe, what's going on? The boy's an absolutely phenomenal football player. It will detract from his ability on the park.
100%.
That's going to
100%.
affect him. I don't give a fuck what you say. He's not going to be the same player if he's dealing with all that stuff outside his fucking time on the park.
Agree, mate.
It's a circus.
I just don't think it's like you say. See, if you're a football player, you're a football player. But if you haven't all that in the background, I just don't know how he's going to. Again, but that's where the hierarchy at PSG are they really thinking about the players' welfare in that sense? Probably they're thinking about the money welfare and their welfare, but how can a player handle all that at that age? Personally, I don't think he could. Obviously, he's going to have money to have people help him buy it, but I just think it's ridiculous. But I think for
And you know why they done it, mate? He's leaving. He was leaving them, mate. That's why they were
aye.
desperate. They've been desperate to keep him, mate. He was saying ta-ta.
I think
This isn't a contract that this is a contract they've had a year to think about this.
Nah.
This isn't just a pure, we'll give you this. They've sat.
Well, they nearly lost him last season, didn't they?
Aye.
Did they not nearly lose him last season in Real
What did
Madrid?
Real Madrid
120 million euro Real Madrid bidded from last season, and something happened. I don't know what I can't remember exactly what it was, but something happened at the last sort of fucking stage of the deal. It just scuppered the deal for another year.
See,
And then he was then saying a couple of weeks ago, before all this all came about, that he was going to Real Madrid and he was telling people close to him, and it all came out. And then they've just, it's as if they've just got together and went, we need to throw this at him so that he stays. And it's just, it's fucking bonkers, man. It's crazy.
The thing is, I know, but JP, right, is it opens up another can of worms that players will just be like that. Well, fuck it then. I'm just going to let my contract run down. And then
Well, that's what John was kind of saying there, Jace. It's going to play, his players going to maybe down tools now and say, oh, fuck that. No, I mean, I'm not going to. And then are you going to want to listen to him? Because, I mean, you picture big Thiago Silva and that being still part of that team, and then him going like that, right? You can't play today because I don't think you're up. You'd be like that. I mean, you go and fucking run a. Know what I mean? Run up him, stupid. You're only here a couple of years now, you're telling people what they can and can't do. That's Pochettino. That's his job. Pochettino. What does he do? So he's the manager of the team. And what's he supposed to do now? Mbappe, come here a minute. I'm looking to sign him now. What do you think? Monday the video analysis phase and go and scout this boy for me. Come on, fuck, man. That's never going to work. Never in a month for Sundays.
It just swings the whole, you know, you're meant to, the manager and all that's meant to have the final say. Clubs there's going to be players like that, but I want to have a word.
No manager worth their salt's going to take that. I don't care who they are. Any decent coach, decent-minded coach isn't going to take that. They're not going to touch up a basketball with all that in the contract. Oh, Mbappe needs to come. Mbappe needs to come to team meetings and all that to make sure that Everton's all smooth in the dressing room. See if I was a manager and somebody says that, that. No, what Mbappe can do. Mbappe can just go in the house and watch us in BT Sports and when we're playing Man City in the Champions League. That's what Mbappe can do. If he doesn't like it, then he's
I agree.
And as soon as I stepped in, I'd be like, he's transfer listed right away.
It's crazy, man.
But then, how much do you need to pay to trigger his buyout clause now? Is he going to be the first £1 billion player? Because that's what it's going.
Problem.
That's crazy. That's just crazy. I know it's just.
I just think it's bonkers, man. No football player should be getting that. Nobody should be getting that influence at a club. Doesn't matter how good you are.
Even when Jack Grealish went to Man City last year for $1 million, I couldn't believe what I was reading.
No.
I know.
$1 million for Jack Grealish.
But even talking about it this side of the year, I know, boys, about Declan Rice. You better be Ambrosia Rice. 100 million, you're having a fucking giggle, man. Again, if he's worth 100 million, what's Callum McGregor worth?
I know.
Harry Maguire, £80 million. 80 million. Virgil van Dijk, 70. Come on, you fuck, man.
I just think it's...
Harry Maguire, I know you better be fucking Jerry Maguire. Unbelievable, man.
You're better be Jerry Adams, the centre-back, fuck's sake.
Aye.
But I honestly, right, and I'm agreeing with you that comes to the it's just going to affect our football as well, because players are going to go for more money than they should, and clubs are going to be wanting to bid more money.
Think Callum McGregor's going to go to Angel or something and say, right here, I want to fucking say so and what's happening now. I want to find out who's coming in so I can give my approval on it.
I know what Ange would say. I know
Living
what
the real.
Ange
I know what Ange would say. You're on the
But-
same flight as Big Beaton and
Aye.
Norgate. See you later, son.
I just hope that
He's
it
bigger than no player is bigger than any club,
no,
and
I
they've
know, mate.
made him bigger than PSG.
No, I know.
Aye. I just hope that in few years
He's
to
not going to
come,
knock that back. Who's going to knock that
nah,
back?
no chance. I just hope in years to come that things will calm down on the money side, but I can't see it. But
Can't you see that? Just
obviously,
gonna get worse.
obviously for us, absolute successful season. We'll do another podcast about obviously more stuff in the season, but I think we've spoken about a lot, and I think it's a lot of the fans. I think would like to hear some opinions. Obviously, we don't agree on everything. That's why we like football. But John, Jason, Jai, Pete's been a very good podcast, in my opinion. A lot of opinions, a lot of discussions. But again, lads, hail, take care, and Monticello champions once again.
Hail, champions again.